On page 36, calendar 400, substitute for House Bill number 5043, an act concerning convertible pistols and unfinished frames or unfinished lower receivers. Favorite report of Judiciary.
Chair will recognize Representative Stastrom of the 129th, the Chairman of the Judiciary Committee from the City of Bridgeport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move for acceptance of the Joint Committee's fair report and passage of the bill.
Questions acceptance of the Joint Committee's fair report and passage of the bill. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you well know, machine guns are illegal in the state of Connecticut. Not only are they illegal in the state of Connecticut, they're illegal in every other state in this country. Yet, they are still showing up on our streets. In 2023 and 2024 alone, the Hartford Police Department confiscated 51 do-it-yourself machine guns. These are pistols that can be converted into fully automatic weapons using a tiny Lego-sized switch. The problem is not confined to Hartford, Mr. Speaker. There were recent arrests in Meriden, West Hartford, among several other communities in our state. Mr. Speaker, it's a predictable danger with predictable victims that we can try to address and prevent through this bill before us. What this bill today does is it tries to protect our residents by prohibiting the future sale of new handguns that can be easily converted into fully automatic machine guns. I want to emphasize, Mr. Speaker, we are talking about new handguns. This bill prohibits the import or sale of new convertible pistols manufactured after October 1st of 2026. Under this legislation, no gun is going to be confiscated. I repeat, no gun is going to be confiscated, and no one in Connecticut is going to be prohibited from possessing an existing Glock pistol or other convertible pistol. What this bill aims to do is to hold manufacturers to a basic safety standard. The point is, if you want to sell pistols in Connecticut, that pistol cannot be designed so that it could easily accept a switch that would be converted into an automatic weapon. In passing this legislation, we would join like-minded states in California, Maryland, soon to be New York, and others in asking Glock to simply redesign its pistol, much as they have done in Germany and other parts of Europe, so as to meet these standards. The bill also, Mr. Speaker, is tough on those who possess Glocks and Glock switches. It clarifies that if you possess the Glock switch and the Glock, that is a D felony and a serious firearm offense under our statutes, thus making it easier for law enforcement to enforce the legislation. Mr. Speaker, this legislation also closes a loophole in our background check requirements. It expands the definition of firearm to cover unfinished frames or lower receivers, which are the building blocks of untraceable homemade handguns known as ghost guns that are flooding into our streets in avoiding our stringent requirements here in Connecticut. With that, Mr. Speaker, the clerk is in possession of an amendment. It's LCO number 4469. I ask it be called and then be granted leave of the chamber to summarize.
Will the clerk please call LCO 4469, which will be designated House Amendment Schedule A.
House Amendment Schedule A, LCO number 4469, offered by Representative Stastrom, Senator Winfield.
The representative seeks leave of the chamber to summarize the amendment. Is there objection? Hearing none, Representative Stastrom, you may proceed with the summarization.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what the amendment does is cleans up some of the technical language relating to the definition of convertible pistol in Section 1 of the bill, and also makes some conforming changes to the definition of pistol converter in Section 2 of the bill. The amendment also adds a new Section 501, which was a bill that came out of public safety as House Bill 5459. They would update statutes governing voluntary relinquishment of firearms to local law enforcement personnel. And it also adds a new Section 503, which again was a bill that came out of public safety as House Bill 5454, that would require local firearm permitting authorities to remit fees associated with licensure back to an individual if they fail to act within the applicable statutory timeframes. I move adoption.
Question before the chamber is adoption of House Amendment Schedule A. Will you remark on the amendment? Will you remark on the amendment, Representative Fishbein, on the amendment of the 90th District, dual champion on the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask that the vote be by voice vote. Thank you.
Hearing no other objection to a voice vote, I will try your minds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative Fishbein of the 90th. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Steve Dargan in my comments as I begin the day. I wasn't up here with him, but I did, outside of the chamber, get to know Mr. Dargan. He would call me from time to time. We had some great conversations. The last time I saw him was actually at Mary Fritz's funeral. I replaced Mary Fritz up here, and Steve was on the Board of Pardons and Paroles at that time. And we had a great conversation that day. Always a very cheerful individual, jolly, I think is the right word. Very much miss Mr. Dargan. So,
agreed.
Moving to the bill that we have here today, I have a riddle for the chairman. If I could ask him a question in the form of a riddle, it would be helpful.
Please proceed.
Thank you. What do pool chlorine, a twin-engine Cessna, and a Glock pistol have in common? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Staffstrom, you can't answer.
I missed the first part, so if you could repeat it.
A little bit louder, please.
Absolutely, and I'll face the camera this time too. What do pool chlorine, a twin-engine Cessna, and a Glock pistol have in common? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Staffstrom.
He's got me there, Mr. Speaker. He's got me there.
Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, they all can be turned into devices, implements that can kill people. Common pool chlorine can be changed into a chemical weapon. The twin-engine Cessna could be flown into a building, killing many people. A Glock pistol could be converted into a machine gun. What we have before us here today, Mr. Speaker, is a law that just takes the pistols and deals with them differently. It takes a device, an instrument, a tool that you need to have a permit to get to begin with, which I don't need a permit to buy pool chemicals. I don't need a permit to even buy an airplane. To fly it, different situation. But I need a permit to purchase a Glock pistol or a pistol that has a cruciform trigger bar, as we address in this law. And then just because it is not converted into that thing that could be an automatic weapon, we are attacking it through this legislation. That fundamentally, Mr. Speaker, is not good public policy. Mr. Speaker, year after year, we see the legislature attacking guns and not attacking criminals. Another question for the good chair, if I may.
Please proceed.
In the introductory comments, it was mentioned that 51, I think, of these Glock automatic handguns had been confiscated by the Hartford police. The first question is, when did that occur? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, those are statistics from 2023 and 2024. Through you.
Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And from how many individuals had those been confiscated? Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I don't have the exact number, but my understanding is it was roughly one per individual. Through you.
Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the answer. I heard one.
One per individual.
One per individual. And where does that, because that was different than the testimony that I heard at the public hearing. Where does that representation come from, Mr. Speaker?
Representative Stafstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I'm looking at statistics that were provided to me by the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection. Through you.
Representative Stafstrom. Representative Fishbein. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you didn't mean to upgrade me, so, but I waited for the correction. And of those cases, so based upon, we've heard here today, 51, 52 individuals had been found with these implements in Hartford. What was the disposition of those cases, through you, Mr. Speaker?
Representative Stafstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm looking at some of the testimony we received during the public hearing, and I know in at least one of those cases, the modified firearm switch was involved in a murder of a 20-year-old Hartford woman and her 4-year-old son. I know in another instance, there was a shooting in New Haven and a gang-involved shooting in Bridgeport that injured a bystander in their own kitchen. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We were talking about the Hartford incidents, and in particular, the 51, 52 individuals we've heard about today that were found with these implements. What were the dispositions of those Hartford cases? Not New Haven, not Bridgeport. That was the question. So I reassert the question through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Stafstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I don't have the breakdown as to each of those individual cases. Like I said, at least one of those cases involved the murder of a woman and her 4-year-old son. That in and of itself, Mr. Speaker, is enough to me to say we need to do something. I've not seen a 20-year-old woman and her 4-month-old son murdered on the streets of Hartford recently with chlorine or with a Cessna airplane, but we do know at least one woman and her son were murdered on the streets of Hartford with a Glock switch. Through you.
Can we stand at ease for a moment?
Chamber will stand at ease. Chamber will come back to order. Representative Fishbein.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to move temporarily to Representative Howard, if I may.
Thank you, Representative. Do you accept the yield, Representative Howard?
Gladly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Howard of the 43rd, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't believe that I'm going to have too many questions for the proponent. One may pop up. Well, I guess we could start with a question. So if I could, in the amendment, point my good colleague from Bridgeport's attention to Section 1. And I apologize, sir, I don't have line numbers on the amendment copy that I have, but it's relevant to the definition of convertible pistol. It says readily altered by hand or with a common household tool. Mr. Speaker, I just want to give my colleague just a moment to get to where I'm at. Okay. And I look further down, and it says a common household tool includes hacksaw. If we're talking about pistols, and specifically striker-fired pistols with a cruciform trigger bar, what necessitates a hacksaw in that process? Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
Mr. Speaker, I'll confess I haven't tried to convert a pistol, so I'm not entirely sure what would be entailed, but I think what we were trying to do here in the definition of common household tool was just to list certain common household tools that someone might have in their workshop, and a hacksaw would be one of those. So certainly if a hacksaw is not necessary, then I think under this, the tools that are generally used are probably more of a screwdriver or a drill. Through you.
Representative Howard.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the answer. I guess I feel compelled to say for the record, neither have I, right? I have never tried to convert a pistol. But when this legislation came through the Judiciary Committee, I did take the time, because I thought it was important, to understand what that meant. Understand how the Glock switch came to be. what a Glock switch is, so-called Glock switch, convertible pistol switch, converter, whatever we call it in here. On the street, it's called a Glock switch. Pistol converter, I guess. Well, I'll try to use that word the best I can. The reason I bring this to the attention of the chamber is because in everything I've seen, there's no need for a hacksaw to convert a so-called convertible pistol into a machine gun by use of a convertible switch. So the presence of the word hacksaw gives me a grave concern. And I want to make this clear. The grave concern is this. What we're doing with this bill is that we are putting into statute that if you own something that's legal, that can be readily converted. Because, let's be honest, I could take a Porsche 911 and convert it into a ship if I have enough tools and enough material. But that's not readily converted, right? It would take an awful lot to do that. What we're doing is we're putting in statute and saying if you own something that's legal, but it can be, quote, readily converted from the bill into something illegal, in this case a machine gun, we're going to outlaw the legal device. Mr. Speaker, under current statute, 53A211 makes the possession of a sawed-off shotgun in this state illegal. A sawed-off shotgun is a shotgun with a barrel less than 18 inches. I would submit to you that with a hacksaw, I could readily convert a shotgun into a sawed-off shotgun in just a few minutes. Now, it's not contemplated in the bill. Not contemplated, shotguns are in the bill because of existing language and what they're changing, but that's not contemplated in the bill. But the presence of the word hacksaw seems to set up where this may be headed in the future. And that's why I bring that up. Later on in the same convertible pistol language, it talks about, before I get there, I think it's important for people to understand what happened here. Why are we here today discussing this? And I'd like to tell my colleagues the reason. And by the way, what I'm about to say was also stated by the proponents of this bill, what I believe and what they have said are some of the chief advocates of this bill at public hearing. I would say the group, I'm not sure if that's appropriate, so I won't, but it was a group that came and testified. I think they were the first ones at public hearing on this bill. If folks want to go back and read it and see what I'm talking about here. In the 1980s, early 1980s, Gaston Glock developed, designed, and began to manufacture the Glock pistol. And when that happened, he created a trigger bar, which is for those who don't know, is a piece within there that is how the device recycles itself, et cetera, to set up for the next round. It also plays a pretty important part of safety, but that's besides the point. And later on, a gentleman in Venezuela designed what we commonly refer to as a Glock switch or a converter switch, or as is talked about here, or a pistol converter. A pistol converter designed it. That gentleman tried to market that new design and his invention to law enforcement and military market here in the United States. Of course, none of them wanted it because nobody wants a fully automatic pistol. You can't control the rounds. We don't want them. Fully automatic pistols should not be out on the streets. I totally agree with that, okay? And he patented it. When the patent ran out, became public knowledge, and some wrongdoers, criminals across the United States took that design and they started manufacturing these switches and they made it into the civilian market, and people were illegally, because they're already illegal, were illegally attaching those to otherwise legal pistols to make them fully automatic. And that was what became the problem. Subsequent to that, to address this concern, I believe in last January or sometime in the not too distant past, one of the main manufacturers of the striker fired pistol changed the cruciform trigger bar. Changed it. Because, as contemplated here, people around the country said, well, the problem is that that particular pistol, with that particular design, because somebody already invented it, is very easy to do. So if we simply get away from the cruciform trigger bar and go to something else, we'll solve the problem. It's kind of like what's contemplated here today. Glock, one of the main manufacturers, came out with what they call the V trigger bar. And the testimony from the chief proponent of this legislation at public hearing was that within days of that new design, evildoers in the United States invented, created, and manufactured a new switch that attached to that one within days. That was the testimony of that that proponent, and that is in fact true. I've vetted that out and confirmed that is the case. Because, Mr. Speaker, as we sit here today in 2026, human ingenuity is in a place where it's never been before. Computer ingenuity, with the advent of AI and the existence of 3D printers. So we talk about AI, I say to people all the time, I should not have AI. I shouldn't have it. Because it allows like the things I see in my head for me to actually make visible to other people, right? So I shouldn't have it. The point is, if you can imagine it and tell AI what you want it to do, it can tell you how to do it, and then you can 3D print it. A firearm, any firearm, fully automatic, semi-automatic, a revolver, a flint muzzle, is nothing more than a series of moving parts that creates a spark, that ignites gunfire, that causes a bullet to leave the end of a muzzle. It's a series of moving parts. So for as long as human ingenuity is going to exist, and as long as 3D printers exist, and as long as physics exists, somebody somewhere is going to find a way to manufacture, design something that can overcome the reset cycle of a pistol and make it fully automatic. So I appreciate, Mr. Speaker, your indulgence there, so I can just make sure that my colleagues understand how we got here today. So what about how we're here today? Here in this definition of convertible pistol, it says that a convertible pistol shall not be that if there's been something put in the way. So the way the converter works is you pop the back of the plate off and you attach the switch to the cruciform trigger bar, and you've made it now fully automatic. What this basically says in layman's terms is, okay, if the manufacturer puts something there, it wouldn't work, but for purposes of conversation, a piece of cinder, like a piece of cement, and says, well, now you can't attach something to it, then it would work, unless that's could readily be removed. Well, anything that can be readily put there can be readily removed. We're talking about manufacture by human beings using tools. Ever since we made the wheel, the bowl, the plate, a fork. And now what we're doing is we're going down a road and saying that not anything, I try to be clear about what's in the legislation. In this legislation, that because these particular pistols, which by the way, happen to be the most popular pistol purchased in the United States in the civilian market and within law enforcement. Probably pretty soon the military as well. I don't think that's the case today. What it does there is it says as long as it can't be readily removed with common household tools. That to me does nothing, because anything that can be readily put there can be readily removed. Later on in this amendment, I'm still in what I guess is now section 2 of the bill, and forgive me. It says that any other device, part, combination of parts, kit, tool, or accessory that is not necessary for the function of the pistol, and that when built into increases the rate of fire above the rate at which a person can fire the firearm without the device, part, combination, etc. So, through you, to the good speaker, would that include an upgraded trigger through you?
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, it could if it has the effect that is enumerated in this definition. Through you.
Representative Howard.
Well, see, this is one of the problems with the legislation, because we say these things without a true understanding of how firearms work, right? Because it seems to me that the intent of legislation is, in fact, not to do that. It seems to me the intent of legislation is talking about making a pistol fully automatic. That seems to be the intent. But when we draft laws like this, and by people who don't, I guess, understand how the firearm works, this is sort of where we end. I think 65% of the law enforcement in the state of Connecticut, both state and municipal, use Glocks. And I'm not going to debate the presence or the lack of a fiscal note in this bill, and be careful about that. Except I want people to understand something. You know, we walk around this building and we talk about municipal aid, and we talk about, you know, affordability, and we talk about trying to make things more affordable for a municipality. It is a fact that police departments have to train armorers within their police department to work on their firearms, because sometimes, being that it's a series of moving parts, firearms fail. Parts fail, something is defective, etc. So now, under this legislation, none of our police departments, our state police or any municipal police department, will be able to import, purchase, or acquire any of these firearms that are manufactured this way after October. So, if that's the case, I would suggest that it may come at a cost to municipalities, because these armorers have to be retrained, and you can't get matching guns to what's already there. So I am very fortunate to have recently been issued the Glock 45 COA, phenomenal platform, which can't even get to the civilian market yet because they can't fill the orders for law enforcement as it sits, because they're that busy. And if we try to add in one of my towns, or both of my towns that have police departments, to the police department add additional firearms, they won't be the same. And I also think, and perhaps it's the point of legislation, I don't know, I don't speak to people's intent, but I also think that when these main manufacturers have to remanufacture something just to come to Connecticut, I would venture a guess that the rules of economics would say that that particular product, be it a firearm or anything else, would become more expensive to people here, while we talk about affordability. Jumping forward in section 501 of the amendment, this says an individual who delivers or surrenders a firearm, or, well, you know what, before I get to that, let me jump to section, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, it's trying to keep the amendment with it. I only got this morning, so. In section 3 of the bill is really the big issue, and I want to be clear about this. The underlying bill, because I think it's very important that folks understand some things. The portion of the underlying bill that makes the switch, well, the switch is already illegal. Having a firearm with a switch attached to it is already illegal. What we're now saying is if I'm in possession of a convertible pistol as defined, and in possession of a Glock switch or a switch, but it's not yet attached to it, nah, they're both machine guns now. And Mr. Speaker, I don't have an issue with that. Because if I'm in possession of a convertible pistol and a Glock switch, there's no question what my intent is. My intent is to put that switch on the pistol and make it fully automatic. That is clear. Because a switch has no other legitimate purpose. You know, the ranking member talked earlier about airplanes and chlorine or something else, things that have legitimate purpose. We actually make a differentiation of those things in statute, actually. So a deadly weapon in our criminal justice statutes is defined as something that was solely manufactured to be a weapon. A baseball bat is not a weapon. I mean, I hear it be talked about a lot. It's like, oh, a baseball bat can be a deadly weapon. Well, not according to our statutes. In our statutes, a baseball bat's a dangerous instrument if it's used as a weapon, right? There's a distinction. And the distinction that the legislature made then, that carries through today, is that there's a distinction between something that is manufactured for illegal purpose, or in that case, for a purpose of causing harm, but in this context, something that is manufactured solely for an illegal purpose and something that is manufactured for something else are different, right? Heroin dealers sell their product in glassine bags. Maybe we could cut down the heroin epidemic if we outlawed glassine bags, except they have legitimate purposes that are legal. And we could go on and on and on about that. A switch, Mr. Speaker, has one purpose, and it is illegal. So if somebody's in possession of that switch and in possession of an otherwise legal firearm that would accept that switch and become fully automatic, I would be the first guy in line to support that legislation, because that is good public policy. But what this bill does is it tells every person in this state that owns a striker-fired pistol, that enjoys the sport of it, that keeps it for their self-defense. My wife is a very small-framed woman, right? Those striker-fired pistols work very well for her, all right, when she's by herself or whatever. And telling everybody in this state, you can keep yours. I don't want to misrepresent the legislation. There is nothing in here, nothing, that says if you currently own one of these firearms that you have to turn it in. That is not contained in legislation anywhere. I want to be clear, all right? I want to be accurate. But what it is saying is you can't buy them anymore unless the manufacturer changes the way they do it, which I believe may come at a cost. Now, one of the main companies, as I said, has changed in their newest version. I've contacted them, and there's no commitment as to whether or not that's going to be their design going forward. But I'll point this out. If this bill passes today, it does not ban the sale or manufacture of the V-trigger bar. And as we sit here today, the V-trigger bar already has a switch that can attach to it and be used to make it fully convertible. As we sit here today. I believe that to be true. In public hearing, that was the testimony of the advocates of this legislation. So this outlaws cruciform trigger bars because in the past and still today, they can accept a switch that's already designed and readily be attached to them. It does not outlaw the V-trigger. Does not outlaw the V-trigger bar at all. Which brings into question the whole point of legislation. If what we're hearing is that the legislation was designed to stop the addition of a so-called Glock switch or a pistol switch converter onto a convertible pistol because it's already been designed and is too readily accessible and easy to do, well then why is the V not here? Now, I'm certainly not suggesting to add it. That would just make the bill worse for me. But my point is the impetus and the alleged intent of this bill falls short because we've already moved beyond it. Unless, of course, this is step one to come back next year and do something else. And perhaps that something else, since we've added hacksaw seemingly unnecessarily, is to ban shotguns. Maybe that's what's next here in the state of Connecticut. I don't know. I certainly wouldn't support it, but perhaps that's what's next. Mr. Speaker, if this underlying bill didn't have Section 3 in it, and it simply defined convertible pistols, and it said that if you have a convertible pistol and a device that can make that convertible pistol fully automatic, boy, be a hard no vote. Be a real hard no vote. It's a good piece of legislation, if it did that, if we struck Section 3. My main opposition to this bill is Section 3. My main opposition to this bill is a section that says, you, law-abiding person in the state of Connecticut, who's paid $300, potentially, if it's a pistol permit, a little bit less if it's a eligibility certificate, paid all this money, gone through a fingerprint-supported background check, had your background done, gone through a class, and you want to purchase a firearm for a legitimate legal purpose, Not going to be able to do it after March, if it was manufactured after March 1st with these things in it. That is one of the most common ways to do things. That's what I find offensive. I find it offensive that we're going to sit here today and we're going to tell law-abiding citizens in the state of Connecticut that they can't have something because somebody else has wanted to buy it and remanufacture it. I don't know how many Glock pistols I own. I'd have to sit and count them. A handful. None of them have ever been converted. To my knowledge, the backplate's never even been taken off of them. But my kids and I have a great time. We have dad and son time. We go to the range. They learn gun safety. We have lunch together. They put a few rounds down range. And I know that's offensive. I understand my colleagues get upset about that. You should not be spending quality time with your son at the gun range. That's fine. That's your opinion. We have a great time. All right, jumping on to this amendment that came out of public safety. So, as I understand section 501 in the amendment, it says that police departments in this state, well, the state, I want to make this distinction. The state police is going to have to become a temporary storage facility for firearms owners. And the police departments locally can do it, may do it. Now, 5 years ago, I used to sit over there. I stood there, and in the Judiciary Committee, when we were in the RPO language, and I said, hey, this language exists in a way that police departments have to hold all these firearms into perpetuity. We don't have that kind of storage space. The state police doesn't have that kind of storage space. What are we doing? We can't do that. Well, we did it anyway. So now, we have police departments and the state police coming to us and saying, hey, when we have those guns more than 2 years, we're going to destroy them. We're going to let you know, you can come get them, but if you've gone through the process to have your order terminated, but we're going to destroy them. And we have to do that. They came to the Public Safety Committee and said, we have to do that. We have too many guns. We don't have space for all these things. And I said, yeah, I know. I don't want to take words out of my friend from the 47th mouth, but yeah, I told you so. I told you that 5 years ago. So we have a bill to change that so that we can free up their space. And then we pass another bill that says, but we're going to take in a bunch of other ones instead. That defies physics. If I move this phone off my desk to make room on my desk and put another phone there, I haven't made any more room. I don't know why we think I did. That's insanity to me. So we're going to sit here and say, we need to change the law to destroy all these firearms so we can make room because we don't have enough room, but no, we do have enough room if you want to bring your guns to us so we can hang on to them. I don't even know what the point of this even is. So we have a bill here, and I'm a police officer, as everybody knows, right? And I didn't say that yet today. I say it every day, so now I said it. I'm a police officer. I run an evidence room. People can bring firearms today, any police department, fill out the DPS 293C, and say, I want this firearm destroyed. I don't want it anymore. They sign the form. The police department takes it to the state police, and they destroy it or mark it for appropriate use. Okay? So if you have a firearm you don't want, you can bring it to your police department today or the state police, and they'll take it. No problem. Periodically, people call and say, hey, I want you to hold on to my firearms for a while. I say, well, I can't do that. That's not what we're here for. You could bring it to a gun shop and ask them to hold it, to an FFL, and have it hold them for you for a while, and you could pay storage fees like everybody else does. You know, I have a boat. I have to store it somewhere in the wintertime. I pay somebody. Maybe that would be a great amendment. I'll probably get told no, but maybe we'll make an amendment here that so I don't have to spend the money to store my boat in the storage lot. I can store it in the back lot of the PD, or maybe at town hall. I mean, I'm a taxpayer after all. Maybe I should store that property there. And this says that, and I've heard proponents of legislation say things like, well, if I'm going on vacation, I want my gun stored. Okay. Go to your local gun shop, and I'm sure they'll be happy to do it for you. This says if I do that and I come back, I can't even have my gun back until 15 days later. I haven't done anything wrong. I walk in and I say, hey, officer so-and-so, I got to go down to Florida for 3 days. I live alone. There's been some crime in my neighborhood, burglaries. I want to be responsible. and I want to bring my firearms here so that they're safer. That's good sense. Then when I get back, I can't have my firearms back for 12 more days. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm a legal firearms owner, and they're keeping my guns for 15 days. That's crazy. I also heard folks say, well, what if the person's mentally ill, right? So I walk into the front door of the Hartford police station and say, guys, I live here in Hartford. I feel like I might want to hurt myself. I got to give you my guns. Hang on to them for me. You know what that police officer is going to do? He's going to do an RPO. Of course he's going to do an RPO. Absolutely going to do an RPO. Police officers in the state do RPOs anytime, some police departments operate, anytime they send somebody in the hospital under a 178503 emergency examination request. Of course they're going to. And then the RPO process takes over. I had somebody say to me, well, what if it's a domestic? Okay. What if it's a domestic? So suppose a guy says to you, he wants to give you his guns because you're arresting him for a domestic violence offense. Then what do you do? Well, you take his guns. Because he got arrested for a domestic violence offense, and when he told me about them and showed me where they were, they became in plain view, and under our general statutes, the police have an obligation to take them. It says shall. And they take them, they put them on a JDCR 18 until the case is done, but almost inevitably, at the next court date, there's a protective order. So now we're into the 1 year 2936K. This says 2 years. What are we doing the extra year for? Why are we doing the extra year? We have a storage problem. Under current law, if a domestic violence arrestee comes into a police station, says, here's my guns, I got a protective order, I have to turn them over, I check the other box on the DPS 293C, I check the other box, say that I'm turning them over in compliance with 2936K, and I understand that in 1 year, if I have not legally got them back to me or to an FFL, that they will be destroyed. 1 year. Opening up storage in the police department. But now we're saying 2 years. So play that out. How does that even work? How does that even work? Somebody comes to a police department and says, hey, here's my guns, I'm getting arrested, or whatever, and then there's a protective order, he signs that, and it says that law, 2936K, says they're going to be destroyed after 1 year. Then we have another law saying 2 years. I don't know, flip a coin? Maybe we flip a coin, figure out which one, I don't know. The last part of this amendment, section 503, is a good part of the bill. Is a good part of the bill here. Because this says that when a police officer, a police chief, to a police chief or a local authority has a statutory obligation to render a decision on a pistol permit applicant in a certain amount of time. And if they don't, nothing happens. You can't even appeal because there's been no decision. So what this does is basically says the fee, the $70, the statutory fee that you pay that municipality will go back to you. And hopefully that helps hold people accountable, whether it be the first selectman or the police chief. Mr. Speaker, I have outlined to you some of the concerns I have with some of the amendments. But I'll submit to this legislature that if Section 3 of this bill were to be removed, I'd be more than happy to support it today. But I am adamantly opposed, whether it's a firearm, chlorine, an airplane, I don't care what it is. I am adamantly opposed to a public policy that says that we're going to make something illegal for law-abiding citizens to possess because they may turn it into something that is, let me say it, Ben. I am opposed to a public policy that says that we are going to make it illegal for a law-abiding citizen to possess an otherwise legal piece of equipment because they might be able to take that series of moving parts and turn it into something else. We've heard "I told you so" already this year. I've said it already in this year. And I'm telling you right now that if this goes through today and we codify into statute the theory that it's acceptable legislation to outlaw a legal firearm that may be converted into something illegal, before long, it's going to be shotguns. And then we've lost it all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Howard. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative Fishbein, taking back the baton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the exchange. There was a particular part of the exchange that had to do with rate of fire enhancements. And in the amendment, there is language, it's particularly line 55, that says that if an item is not necessary for the operation of a firearm and it increases the fire, such as a sear, as we've heard about today, that that would be addressed by the legislation. However, the exchange had to do with triggers. A trigger is required for any firearm to fire. And therefore, because of the use of the word "not" in line 55, it says an accessory that is not necessary for the function of the pistol, a trigger, other forms of triggers, additional triggers would not be affected by this. And I just want, through you, Mr. Speaker, to confirm to the chair, just to correct the legislative history on this, that is the case, through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Yes, through you, Mr. Speaker, the amended language does make clear that the definition of, the addition of the language with respect to rate of firearm enhancements does not apply to a part of the gun that is necessary for the functionality of the gun. Through you.
Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, moving on, there are various things that we heard from my colleague that are problems with this bill. There are various things that are addressed by this bill. Overall firearms safety of the citizens and non-citizens of the state of Connecticut. And with that, Mr. Speaker, the clerk is in possession of an amendment. It is LCO 4501. I ask the clerk call the amendment, and I'd be given leave to summarize.
Will the clerk please call LCO 4501, which will be designated House Amendment Schedule B.
House Amendment Schedule B, LCO number 4501, offered by Representative Fishbein.
Representative seeks leave of the chamber to summarize the amendment. Is there objection? Seeing none, Representative Fishbein, please proceed with the summarization.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this amendment merely gives a tax credit for the purchase of a gun safe. Certainly, we, by public policy, do provide for requirements for safes in homes or place of businesses for the storage of firearms. And in conjunction with that public policy that we've set forth, we believe that it would be a good thing to give a tax credit up to $150, yes, sir, for the purchase of that gun safe. And I do move the amendment, and I ask that when the amendment be called, that it be called by roll. Thank you.
Question before the chamber is adoption of House Amendment Schedule B. Will you remark further on the amendment? Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, just two brief questions, which maybe I can ask in conjunction together. One, has this concept been vetted by the Finance Committee, and does the proponent know the cost of this proposal? Through you.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking on the system. I don't see a fiscal note at this point. Therefore, I would assume that there would be no cost because that has not been generated. I will admit that the Finance Committee has not addressed this, but this chamber upstairs has already established during this session that that's really not necessary. You know, we had SB 298 3 weeks ago, which had a provision that should have gone to the Judiciary Committee. Never had a public hearing, but the precedent that was created by that whole process sort of threw the rules out the door. I don't see that this would have a significant impact potentially. You know, perhaps we need more gun owners in the state of Connecticut, but if we take the gun owners, take every household that has a firearm and we multiply it by 150, I don't see it being that much. So, answer the question, that's the answer. Through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Stafstrom.
Just stand at ease for 1 second, Mr. Speaker.
Will the chamber stand at ease?
Go to withdraw it. Mr. Speaker, I defer back to Representative Fishbein now that he's had a chance to review the fiscal note.
The chamber will come back to order. Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do recognize there is a fiscal note in the system, but it's an up to. It could be $1, it could be $5, $10. It's really unclear as to the fiscal impact. So that is my representation to the body. Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I reviewed the fiscal note as well, and the up to here is actually up to $12 million, which, at least where I come from, is a significant amount of money. I know the Bridgeport Board of Education, for example, is suffering with a $44 million budget hole and doesn't have school librarians. We don't have paraprofessionals in our classroom. Certainly $12 million would go a long way to funding librarians and paraprofessionals in our state's largest city. And so as much as I'm sympathetic to those who have to buy gun safes, I'm not sure this is the most prudent use of our state's finite resources, and so I would oppose the amendment, particularly since it hasn't been vetted by the Finance Committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I still rise in support of the amendment. You know, when we look at priorities in this building, we balance priorities all the time. We hear about gun violence. We hear about targeting lawful gun owners. If what I'm hearing today is $12 million is not enough to protect the state of Connecticut from gun violence, I'll accept that position of the other side of the aisle. I think that protecting individuals from gun violence really has no number that you could place on it. We certainly spend money on other things. And looking at the balance, I seem to want to prioritize. We should be looking at the gun violence in this state. We've fought for years to get money for the State Police Gun Trafficking Task Force, for years, to go after illegal guns, and had to fight the other side of the aisle with regard to that funding. So at the end of the day, is it really just guns that they don't like, or is it gun violence? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Fishbein. Will you remark further on the amendment before us? If not, will staff and guests please come to the well in the House? Members, please take your seats, head to your portals. The machine will be open. Ding. Ding.
The House of Representatives is voting by roll, members to the chamber. The House of Representatives is voting by roll, members to the chamber.
Have all the members voted? Will the members please check the board to determine if your vote is properly cast? If all the members have voted, the machine will be locked, and the clerk will take a tally. And will the clerk please announce the tally?
House Amendment Schedule B, total voting 150, necessary for adoption 76, those voting A 48, those voting A 102, absent on voting 1.
The amendment fails. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I see where the priorities of the chamber are, and that's unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, the clerk is in possession of another amendment, and that's LCO 4441. I ask that the clerk call the amendment, and I be given leave to summarize.
Will the clerk please call LCO 4441, which will be designated House Amendment Schedule C.
LCO number 4441, designated House C and offered by Representative Fishbein.
Representative seeks leave of the chamber to summarize the amendment. Is there objection? Hearing none. Representative Fishbein, you may proceed with the summarization.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our Constitution and our courts recognize that the Second Amendment gives certain rights. In fact, even the Connecticut Constitution, Article 1, Section 15, very clearly says that every citizen has a right to bear arms in defense of himself and the state. Constitutional rights. However, the legislature, in its infinite wisdom, or lack of thereof, has made individuals who want to exercise that right pay a fee. I don't think anybody should have to pay a fee to exercise a constitutional right. And what the amendment before us does is just repeals the fees to exercise a constitutional right. Very simple. Now, I do recognize, Mr. Speaker, that we did get a report from OFA. It indicates a $4 million loss, allegedly, from this amendment. My first session I got up here, we learned that the cost of actually processing didn't rise anywhere near the level of what was being collected. And the money from this process was being swept into the general fund. And no additional individuals are hired, to my knowledge, to do this work, to do these reviews. There's no additional cost. And in fact, the fiscal note that's before us once again says any money that comes in goes to the general fund. It isn't used as a counterbalance to pay for the processing of these fees. The government should never charge a fee to exercise a fundamental constitutional right. That is all this amendment does. It brings good public policy in line with being a citizen of the United States and this fair state. I move the amendment, and I ask when the vote be taken that it be taken by roll.
Will
Thank
you
you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Fishbein. Will you remark further on the amendment before us? Representative Staffstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, at least we're moving in the right direction here, right? The last amendment would have cost the state $12 million. This one is relatively modest at a $4 million cost to the state. So, so cut the cost in third. But, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I still need to oppose this amendment. I think, obviously, whenever someone applies for something, there is a fee for that. There's a fee to process. There's a fee for the right to engage in that. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, this is a topic that has not, to my knowledge, been vetted by the Finance Committee. We are late in a budget year, would likely blow a $4 million hole in our budget, and I would ask my colleagues to oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Will you remark further on the amendment before us? Representative Anderson of the 62nd. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to comment on the amendment.
Please proceed.
29 states and growing have permitless or constitutional carry for firearms. This is the Constitution state. It's time for us to get on board. Even with constitutional carry, the federal government requires background checks, and prohibited persons cannot carry. A permit turns a right into a privilege. Less than constitutional carry is unconstitutional. I urge adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Will you remark further on the amendment before us? Will you remark further on the amendment before us? Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to mention that I foresee we're going to have a bill this session. We've had debate in committee about waiving the fees to apply for a pardon, which is right in line. In fact, I would argue that getting a pardon is not a constitutional right. So to be congruent, to support that public policy, I think you have to support this public policy. These are innocent individuals merely looking to exercise a constitutional right, and they shouldn't have to be charged a fee in particular. Thank you. I move the amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Will you remark further on the amendment? If not, will staff and guests please come to the well in the House? Members, take your seats, head to your portals. The machine will be open.
The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber. The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber.
Have all the members voted quickly? Have all the members voted? Will the members please check the board to determine if your vote is properly cast? If all the members have voted, the machine will be locked, and the clerk will take a tally. And will the clerk please announce the tally?
LCO 4441, designated House C. Total number voting 150, necessary for adoption 76. Those voting yea 48. Those voting nay 102. Those absent and not voting 1.
The amendment fails. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate to learn that the state of Connecticut would rather fund illegal alien health care than to balance out the constitutional rights of its citizens, but we go on. So, Mr. Speaker, the clerk is in possession of another amendment. It's LCO 4471. I ask the clerk call the amendment, and I can be given leave to summarize.
Will the clerk please call LCO 4471, which will be designated House Amendment Schedule D.
LCO 4471, designated House D and offered by Representative Fishbein.
Representative seeks leave of the chamber to summarize the amendment. Is there objection? Hearing none, Representative Fishbein, you may proceed with the summarization.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now that we've established that the state of Connecticut, through its legislature, believes it's appropriate to charge a fee to exercise a constitutional right, perhaps it's time to look at the terms on those licenses. So we have 4 different firearm licenses in Connecticut. We have an ammo certificate, we have a long gun eligibility certificate, we have a handgun eligibility certificate, we have a pistol permit. They all require fees. They're all good for no more than 5 years. You know, I got a call from a gentleman I knew years ago. He had lived in Connecticut. He was a hunter for many years. He moved to Ohio and lived there for about 5 years. Came back to Connecticut this last fall and wanted to go hunting. He went to his local gun store to buy ammunition. And they said, well, where's your ammo certificate? Ammo certificate? I need an ammunition certificate to buy ammunition now? How do I do that? So he had to go to the state police. He had to be fingerprinted. He had to file an application. Took them about 45 days to get him the ammo cert. In the meantime, he drove back to Ohio and bought a box of ammunition. All an ammo certificate is a poor economic development vehicle. So what the amendment does, first of all, is it extends the period for a eligibility certificate for a handgun or long gun from 5 years to 10 years. It does the same for a pistol permit, 5 years to 10 years. And it makes ammo certificates good for life. It's good public policy. Now, I will note, Mr. Speaker, that there is a fiscal note that was put on the system. However, there's no numbers that appear in it. It says it might end up with a revenue loss to the state and municipalities due to less frequent payment of renewal fees, but there is no number. So as we shift down in priorities, we started with 12 million, that was unacceptable. We got to 4 million, that too was unacceptable. Now we're at nothing, basically. I move the amendment and I ask that the vote be taken by roll. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question before the chamber is adoption of House Amendment Schedule D. Will you remark on the amendment, Representative Staffstrom?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the ranking member will be relieved to know that fiscal concern is not my primary concern on this amendment. In fact, my primary concern is more that when we have someone go in and apply to renew a license, the primary reason for that is a periodic check-in. Here we're talking about a renewed background check, If you think about sort of a driver's license, we have somebody make sure they actually still want that license or hear that permit. And so I think there is good public policy to keeping the current timelines we have, having that periodic check-in with law enforcement and background check in order for someone to access the firearm. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Will you remark further on the amendment? Will you remark further on the amendment? Representative Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry to bring this to the attention of the good chairman, but as of I think 4 years ago, all renewals are done by mail. They don't do renewals where you come in and you check in and none of that stuff. It doesn't go on. So it's merely you take a passport picture, you attach it to the form, you send it with your check for $70 to the government, and that's what happens. So merely if the opposition is that the person doesn't want to, or the person should be necessary to show active want for that, I don't know that that holds a lot of water here. Because ultimately you are still charging a fee to exercise a constitutional right. The ability to utilize that should be a longer term. So I think the amendment makes sense, and I ask my colleagues to support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Will you remark further on the amendment before us? Will you remark further? If not, will staff and guests please come to the well of the House? Will members take your seats? The machine will be open.
The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber. The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber.
Have all the members voted? If all the members voted, will the members please check the board to determine if your vote is properly cast? If all the members have voted, the machine will be locked. And the clerk will take a tally. Will the clerk please announce the tally?
LCO 4471, designated House D. Total number voting 149, necessary for adoption 75, those voting yea 48, those voting nay 101, absent and not voting 2.
The amendment fails. Will he remark further on the bill as amended? Will he remark further on the bill? Ladies. Representative Dubitzky of the 47th, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate it. I have some questions for the proponent of the bill, if I may.
Please proceed.
And I've been told that I don't smile enough when I'm holding a microphone, so I will try to do this with a smile on my face.
Don't break it.
You never know what's going to happen. Through you, Mr. Speaker, I would ask the good proponent what the genesis of this bill was. Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I think it depends on the section of the bill, but with respect to the first several sections related to the convertible pistols, I think the genesis is that we have seen an increase in proliferation of these convertible pistols being used to commit crime on the streets of our state. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We had that portion of the bill in the Judiciary Committee, and some of the folks that were testifying said that they had written it. I believe they were from every town, the gun control group, that they had written that bill and had then given it to the chair of the Judiciary Committee, who then introduced it. Is my recollection correct, through you, Mr. Speaker?
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, no. Actually, the original language for the convertible pistol provisions of this bill were a governor's bill. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And so the... Were the people who testified about providing that bill to, or that language to the chair of Judiciary, were they incorrect, through you? Or am I remembering it incorrectly?
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, as with most of the bills, if not all the bills that come before the Judiciary Committee, I've met with various proponents of bills, usually in the off session or the early part of session, to look at language. I certainly have had a very productive and constructive dialogue with the Everytown for Gun Safety Group for a number of years, and yes, I did meet with them last summer to discuss potential language for this bill. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And do I understand the bill correctly that it bans the sale and manufacture of Glock handguns? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
No, Mr. Speaker, that's not what the bill does. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Okay, then what does it do? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, it gives gun manufacturers such as Glock up until October of this year to modify the design of their handguns, just as they have done in Europe and other places. And if they want to sell new models of guns in the state after October 1, then they will need to do so in a manner that's consistent with our law. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Okay, so it bans the sale and manufacture of certain specific models of Glock handguns. Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, no, it doesn't ban the manufacture of anything. Glock can continue to manufacture whatever it wants to manufacture. It just says here in the state of Connecticut, if you are going to sell certain types of firearms, they need to comply with certain requirements. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Right, so it bans the sale and manufacture of certain models unless they are changed into new models. Is that correct? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm really not. But this bill does not ban the manufacture of anything. Glock can manufacture whatever it wants to manufacture. All it does is it says you are not permitted to sell into Connecticut a certain type of firearm unless it complies with the requirements of this statute after October 1st of this year. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we're getting a little bit into semantics, but is it fair to say that this bill would ban the sale of any new firearm that has a specific type of trigger bar, which most Glock handguns currently have? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
I would say that's generally correct, Mr. Speaker. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So it essentially bans an entire class of handguns, which is all handguns that have a cruciform trigger bar, which is a trigger bar shaped like a cross. It will ban the sale of all of them in Connecticut that are manufactured after October 1st of this year. Is that correct? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Speaker, are handguns arms? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
Are handguns arms, Mr. Speaker? Like, are they firearms? Yes, yes, they are. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
And handguns can be carried on one's body? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
That they can, Mr. Speaker. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
And handguns can be used by a person to defend herself? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
People do believe that. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And handguns can be used both offensively and defensively? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubitsky.
And handguns are constitutionally protected arms, are they not? Through you.
Representative Stavstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I mean, obviously that's a pretty pun intended, loaded question. I think certainly there's a lot of Supreme Court jurisdiction about where the right to carry begins and ends, and where the Second Amendment begins and ends. So I'm not sure I can give a straight yes or no answer on that question through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll answer that one. Yes, they are. We had a lot of testimony in the Judiciary Committee on this bill and, or at least sections of this bill. And through you, Mr. Speaker, from that testimony, did we learn that Glocks, handguns made by Glock, are the most commonly owned handgun in the nation, through you?
Representative Stastrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I don't recall that direct testimony, but if that's the representative's recollection, I have no reason to doubt it. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do indeed recall that testimony. Does the good chairman recall the testimony that handguns made by Glock are the most commonly owned handgun in Connecticut, through you?
Representative Stastrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, not specifically. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do indeed recall that testimony. Multiple people testified to that effect. Does the good chairman recall the testimony that Glock handguns are often used and carried for self-defense and other legal purposes? Through you.
Representative Stastrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I do believe there were folks who were of that belief at the hearing. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And would the chairman agree with me that a significant number of police departments in Connecticut carry Glock handguns? Through you.
Representative Stastrom.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my understanding is there are certain police departments in the state that issue Glock pistols as duty weapons. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the factory, would the good chairman agree that from the factory, Glock handguns are designed and manufactured to be used legally? Through you.
Representative Stastrom.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure I'd necessarily want to get into what Glock's intent or is or is not. I think part of the impetus of this bill is, it certainly is my belief, and I think it's the belief of many of the proponents of this bill, as well as what has been passed in a few other states now, that says Glock could readily modify its firearm design so that the guns could not so easily be turned into rapid-firing machine guns. Why Glock has chosen not to do that, I can't begin to tell you, Mr. Speaker. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the good chairman have any evidence that from the factory, Glock handguns are designed and intended to be used illegally? Through you.
Representative Stastrom.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, that's not what I said. My point was I believe the guns could be modified to make them safer. Why Glock has not done that, I don't know. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So is that a no? He has no such evidence? Through you.
Representative Stastrom.
That's not what I said, Mr. Speaker. Through you.
Representative Dubitzky.
I understand that's not what he said. But I'm saying, does he have any evidence that Glock handguns from the factory are intended to be used illegally? Through you.
Representative Stastrom, do you care to answer?
I believe I've previously answered the question, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will have a very unproductive discussion if, when I ask the question, you don't answer it, and then when I ask it again, you say I've already answered it.
Made you smile.
Through you, Mr. Speaker. From the factory, are Glock handguns designed to fire a single projectile each time the trigger is pulled? Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
I believe so, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So in that configuration, as they come from the factory, designed to fire a single projectile each time the trigger is pulled, are Glock handguns useful for legal purposes? Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
I'm struggling with the term useful, Mr. Speaker. I think it depends who the handgun is in the hands of, whether it's useful or not. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Can they be used in that configuration for lawful purposes? Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubitsky.
And those lawful purposes include self-defense. Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
As I said before, Mr. Speaker, I believe that's some folks' belief, yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
Those lawful purposes include target shooting. Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
Depending on the location of the target, yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
And those lawful purposes include marksmanship training. Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
Again, Mr. Speaker, assuming other laws and regulations are followed, it could be the case, yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
Those lawful purposes include competition. Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of whether there are Glock firearm shooting competitions occurring in Connecticut, but if so, then conceivably, yes.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, we did have testimony in the Judiciary Committee from a number of individuals who indicated that they indeed used Glock handguns for self-defense, for target shooting, for marksmanship training, and for competition, all lawfully. Through you, Mr. Speaker, I would ask the chairman of the Judiciary Committee if he is aware that one of the things that make Glock handguns so popular is what is called the safe action system. Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
I'm not aware of the specifics of that, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Glock handguns have long advertised and marketed their system, their trigger system, their trigger bar system, and their firing mechanism as a safe action system because it is one of the safest and most effective systems designed and marketed in this country. Through you, Mr. Speaker, what is the reason why this bill would, I won't use the word ban, but I will use the word restrict. What is the reason why this bill seeks to restrict the sale of certain Glock handguns? Through you.
Representative Stafstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, because I think this country and even this state continues to suffer from an epidemic of gun violence. That epidemic of gun violence is visible on our streets. Hartford, Meriden, West Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven, among places in which these types of firearms have been found. Connecticut has very strict laws on the use of machine guns or other rapid fire firearms. And the sale of Glocks in their current form with a switch that can readily be attached to it has caused numerous instances of violence and death on our streets, and we are trying to increase public safety. And frankly, considering the manufacturer has not previously taken steps to rectify the situation, we believe this is the least restrictive alternative to get them to do so. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So if I could boil that down, essentially because Glock handguns can be illegally converted by illegally installing an illegal device to turn them into machine guns. Is that correct? Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Mr. Speaker, that's not the way I put it. I would rest on my previous answer. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
I understand that. I boiled it down. That's why I said I was boiling it down. Okay, so Glock handguns in their current configuration can be converted into a fast-firing firearm. So we're talking about a little device, they call it a Glock switch, that is attached to a Glock to convert it into a fast-firing firearm. Is that correct? Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And that little device, that Glock switch, is already illegal in this state, is it not? Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I believe it's illegal when it's attached to the Glock firearm. One of the things that this bill does is make it clear that the Glock switch is illegal when it is merely in the possession of the same person as the convertible pistol, such that if somebody was, say, driving in their car and they're pulled over and they've got the Glock with the Glock switch attached to it, the officer comes up to the car and they quickly pop out the switch to it, then that would still be in illegal possession of a machine gun under this statute, punishable as a D felony offense. That's part of the import of the bill, Mr. Speaker. It's why this bill is going to make us safer. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A Glock switch is already illegal under federal law, is it not? Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Mr. Speaker, through you, I'm not aware, but certainly federal law seems to be changing fairly rapidly, and we are trying to make it illegal under Connecticut law. Through you.
Representative Dubitsky.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm a little bit baffled that we have a bill before us that seeks to ban a class of firearms that are used for lawful purposes because they can be converted to an illegal machine gun with a Glock switch that is already a felony to possess under federal law, and the good chairman is not aware that that's already a felony. I'm a little baffled by that, but I shall move on. For the benefit of the chamber, I would indicate that it is already a felony to possess one. And we heard fairly extensive testimony on that issue in the Judiciary Committee. Perhaps the good chairman was not there that day, but the Glock switch is already illegal. And what this bill does is it makes regular, lawful, useful, constitutionally protected handguns that are used for lawful purposes, for self-defense, for target shooting, for marksmanship, for training, makes those illegal. So through you, Mr. Speaker, although the good chairman is not aware that the Glock switch is already illegal, is he aware that it is already a felony to attach one to a Glock handgun? Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I think I addressed that in my last answer. I said yes. And I also did say that I did think that a Glock switch was illegal under federal law. My point was that it's not clear it's illegal under state law, which is why we're passing this bill through you.
Representative Dubinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So attaching a Glock switch to a legal Glock handgun is already a felony under both state law and federal law. Is that correct? Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Representative Dubinsky.
So essentially what we are doing with this bill is banning or restricting, I'll use the word banning because you wouldn't be able to buy one or make one after October 1st. So I'm going to use the word banning. We're banning a legally, constitutionally protected arm because someone can illegally use it. Through you, Mr. Speaker, can the good chairman identify any other constitutionally protected product that's been banned from legal use simply because a person illegally converted it to an illegal product by use of an already illegal device? Through you.
Representative Staffstrom.
Yeah, I think I'm as puzzled by that one as you are, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure I quite got all the negatives in there, but I guess what I would say is I'm not sure that a product is ever constitutionally protected that would include a firearm. I think the right to bear arms is constitutionally protected, but that is certainly more limited than each and every single product. And in fact, there's Supreme Court precedent, I believe, that reasonable restrictions on firearms can be implemented. And I believe this is one of those through you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Dubinsky.
All right, well, I can't think of any product that's been legal that has been banned simply because somebody illegally converted it into something else that was illegal. My esteemed colleague from Stonington gave the example of shotgun. Shotgun with a 16-inch barrel could easily be converted into a sawed-off shotgun simply by sawing off the barrel. We don't then ban all shotguns. How about pipes, pipe bombs? Regular hardware store pipe can be converted into an illegal pipe bomb simply by adding gunpowder and a fuse. Shall we ban pipes? We had one of the people who testified at the Judiciary Committee came up with an analogy. He got it from somebody else who I don't know, so I'll attribute it to our testifier, and I will I'll summarize a little bit that if an underage kid illegally buys alcohol, brings it home and mixes it with orange juice, and illegally drinks it, illegally gets drunk, goes out and drives a car illegally, drunk, illegally goes through a red light, illegally has an accident while drunk, this legislature would ban orange juice. Doesn't make any sense. Seems to be a habit around here. Through you, Mr. Speaker, if I were to invent a device that can illegally convert every single handgun in the state into an illegal machine gun, can the state of Connecticut ban all handguns? Through you.
Representative Stafford, do you care to answer?
Mr. Speaker, I believe that's a little too hypothetical for me to give an accurate response on. Thank you.
Representative Dubitzky.
Okay, well, the answer is no. It's just that simple. You can't ban all handguns. You can't ban constitutionally protected handguns. We have Supreme Court precedent out the wazoo on that issue. You can't do it. That's what we're doing. We're banning essentially the most popular firearm that is used for self-defense and other lawful purposes. That is not going to pass constitutional muster. Now, I understand this bill may have started many months ago, but we just had a Supreme Court decision in March that said the government cannot ban a product that is used lawfully, that is sold and marketed for lawful purposes, simply because somebody can use it for illegal purposes. It was last month. Well, that's exactly what we're doing in this bill. Or, I take that back. That's exactly what you're doing in this bill. I'm not doing it. If Glock switches are an issue, then let's address Glock switches. Let's not ban Glocks. Let's not ban the most popular and most used firearm in the state for lawful purposes, simply because some creep happens to figure out a way to make it a machine gun. I can rattle off at least a half a dozen U.S. Supreme Court cases that this bill would run directly afoul of. To save you all, I won't do that. But I certainly have them in my head. And should this bill go through, they will certainly be trotted out, and this bill will go down, because it is yet another attack on the constitutionally protected rights of the people of this state, and it will not stand up in court. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I say it with a smile.
Thank you, Representative Dubitzky, for enthralling all of us with the smile. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative Godfrey of the 110th. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope I'll be more serious. We've had a very good run here in the state of Connecticut on gun responsibility, going back 37 years. In 1990, we passed the first gun responsibility law since like World War II, when we did the Kids and Guns Act, which criminalized the negligent storage of firearms. There had been 6 kids who died in the summer of 1989 because an adult had, in my humble opinion, stupidly and negligently left a loaded gun where they could get their hands on it. They played with it. And the 6 kids died. DJ Caney was one of them. His mother, Susan, was the proponent of the Kids and Guns Act, which passed overwhelmingly in this House, regardless of party or geography or anything else, ideology. And that began this long series of gun responsibility laws. Most of them, like this bill today, are proactive. They're looking to stop something from happening, something that could be fatal, something that certainly is harmful. And this is the latest example of that. And I do want to congratulate Representative Stastrom. He has been a staunch defendant for people who could be harmed by guns, and he's done a terrific job over the years. Only twice have we been reactive. The Kids and Gun Bill I just referenced, and of course, dealing with the massacre at Sandy Hook in 2012, if my memory serves me well. And I wanted to say John McKinney, who was a state senator at the time from Fairfield County, did a terrific job chairing the very special kind of select committee, if you want to call it that, that resulted in that. But in 1994, we banned the civilian possession of military-style assault weapons. And that was litigated in the state courts. And it's interesting because the Connecticut Constitution specifically says citizens, and only citizens, have the right to bear arms in their own defense and defense of the state. And I've always found this interesting. And the court, the Connecticut Supreme Court, because we're talking about Connecticut law, as Representative Stastrom has alluded, this bill deals with Connecticut law, not with any other kind of law. But the court found, yes, there is this constitutional right of citizens to bear arms in their own defense and that of the state, but the legislature, under its general police powers, can define what firearms are defensive weapons. So we're within that constitutional limit, which is much broader, in my opinion. The state constitution, I think, is more protective than the federal. So I think with all that background, that history we've had for 37 years, this is just the next step, and it's being very proactive. And we're not banning a particular group of guns, although we could possibly have that power under the state constitution. We're just saying you can't have these guns, have manufacturers of these guns bring them into the state if they're too easily converted into a semi or even fully automated weapon. And it's interesting, I've heard in some of the discussion we've had over the last few days, Glock already makes these. It's not like they're going to have to turn around and produce and design a new weapon. They already make them. They're illegal in, I think, California and in Maryland and in Germany, our friends in the EU. So I'm hoping that we can not only follow these other jurisdictions that have done this, but that we can continue to be the proactive jurisdiction dealing with making our streets and our homes and our schools and all of our institutions much more safe here in Connecticut. I'm delighted to have seen in the last few years the number of violent crimes in this state keeps plummeting. Murders keep plummeting. Gun violence keeps plummeting. I'd like to get it down to zero, obviously. But I think that it is just, my conscience says, support this bill. It will save lives, as we have done in the past with a lot of the bills this jurisdiction has adopted, and that will be safer. We'll all be safer. Kids will be safer. Adults will be safer. Neighborhoods will be safer. Cities will be safer. The state of Connecticut will be safer. So I would very much encourage my colleagues to vote yes on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Godfrey. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Will you remark further on the bill as amended? If not, will staff and guests please come to the well of the House? Will members take your seats? The machine will be open.
The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber. The House of Representatives is voting by roll. Members to the chamber.
Have all the members voted? Will the members please check the board to determine if your vote is... I don't see any other people. Have all the members voted? Will the members please check the board to determine if your vote is properly cast? If all the members have voted, the machine will be locked, and the clerk will take a tally. Will the clerk please announce the tally?
House Bill 5043 is amended by House A, total number voting 150, necessary for passage 76, those voting yea 86, those voting nay 64, absent not voting 1.
The bill as amended passes.